Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm reviewing all of Elton John's studio albums and marking each track out of 10. I've reviewed 28 of them so far. This is my 29th, and it is Reg Strikes Back, Elton John's 21st studio album that came out in 1988. It followed on from Leather Jackets in 86, preceding Sleeping with the Past in 1989. Reg, of course, is Elton's real name, Reginald Dwight, and it was his comeback album, or was described as that, after a terrible year in his life, 1987. He described it as the worst year of his life. He'd had throat surgery, he'd had trouble with the press, he'd had medical issues, so he was fighting back with this album. Elton was mainly on the digital piano for this album. He had some friends with him, Ray Cooper on percussion, Charlie Morgan on the drums, Davy Johnston providing the guitar support on this. It had a mixed reception, AllMusic only giving it 2 out of 5, Rolling Stone 3 out of 5. For me, it's a varied album. It's got some good tracks, some very good tracks, and some that are of lesser quality for me. Let's have a look at the booklet. The front cover shows a lot of Elton's props. And was this a time for him moving on? Was it a time for him to move away from dressing up so much and putting the past behind him? You get a list of the musicians on the left there, and I do like the way that the lyrics are presented, one page for each song, and they're really easy to read and to follow. Just a reminder of my grading system. Marks range from 1 all the way up to 10 for Out of This World. Most tracks are going to be somewhere in the middle here, and I do keep the high marks back for very special tracks. The opening track is Town of Plenty, one of the singles from the album. And this was kind of an attempt to condemn what's wrong with American society. So Bernie Taupin here was having a go at some of the kind of things that had made society unpleasant, and he's condemning greed. And the message is, this is not my city. This is not the ideal place in which I would want to live. It's got kind of an ironic, upbeat theme to it, but it's addressing the question, where did it all go wrong? It's a pleasant little rocker, this one. It's got this little sort of opening sound, which reminds me a little bit of the opening of Passengers, that da-da-da, that sort of thing, which I didn't particularly like when it was used in Passengers. Some of the lyrics I find a little bit awkward on this, especially the line, "We had no media." That's always grated a little bit with me there. You know, there have been some decent openers to a lot of Elton's albums. I think of things like Simple Life, but I don't think this is up there with them. So I'm going to rate this one as just an average track for me and give it 4. The second track was another single, and this is Word in Spanish. This is about a lover who is in love with somebody who is Spanish, but can't express this love because they don't have any knowledge of the Spanish language, except for a word that they've heard in a film. Unfortunately, we don't actually hear what that word is. It would have been nice to have that in the actual recording. There's a pleasant soundscape created with this one. Elton's using quite a high-pitched voice. Very different from the voice, say, from Blue Eyes, for instance. There's some nice Latin guitar picking from Davy Johnston. There's a decent refrain. It works pretty well with the backing vocals, which are strong on this album. And it's a fairly enjoyable song. I'm going to rate it as fairly good and give it 5. Now, the third track is called Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatter's Part 2. Now, this is a follow-up to the song of the same title that appeared on the Honky Chateau album, except now we've moved 15 years into the future. Now, that initial song, which was a fine recording, was really about disillusion with the idea of living in New York City, that it wasn't quite all they hoped it would be. Now, Bernie's kind of given New York City a second chance here and saying that kind of they've warmed to it and they now enjoy the atmosphere there. This is an excellent lyric from Bernie. He's so good at creating these images of particular places. Remember, Club at the End of the Street, for instance. He's got lines like, "I heard a basketball somewhere out beyond a chain link fence." You know, a delicious use of language there. Elton has given this a complex harmonic setting, but it works really well. This is an exciting song. We've got synth keyboards on here. This idea of Mona Lisa's getting older. And of course, Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatter's were the characters of New York. So they're still there, but perhaps they've changed a little bit over time. It's an excellent piano and companion piece to the first of these songs. Elton has performed them together in concert. They don't quite fit together. They're very different melodies and harmonies, but it's nice to have two parts of the same story. And of course, we've got in here the glorious trumpet playing from Freddie Hubbard, and that gives this a really lovely tinge to this. So I reckon this is an absolutely excellent, in fact, I would describe it as a brilliant piece of work by Elton. For me, it's the highlight of the album. I'm going to award it 9 out of 10, and I don't do that very often. The fourth track is I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That, the first single from the album, and a successful one for Elton. Very good video made of this, by the way, looking at Elton playing in different rooms that keep moving from side to side. It's a driving rocker with a pulsating rhythm. This is what Elton is very good at. What's the song saying? Well, Bernie's talking about that somebody has got more than one partner, they're sleeping around, and they don't want to continue like that. You've got to make a choice. So it's kind of a conversational lyric, which works really well. The verse and the refrain have got almost the same tune, but we don't seem to worry about that too much because it carries us along and we can sing along with it. Nice lines in this, like one more set of boots on your welcome mat. It's a fine sing-along. It kind of soaks up your own anger if you're feeling in the same way about somebody else. So it's a quality recording. It's very popular with the fans, this one. I'm going to rate it as excellent and give it 8 out of 10. Track number 5 is called Japanese Hands. Elizabeth Rosenthal, in her book on Elton, describes this as a panoramic ballad, which has been inspired by Japanese images. It kind of reflects a fascination for foreign culture and possibly a foreign encounter. We have Elton here on the synthesizer, not the piano. The verse is quite a moving melody, but does it actually suit the lyric on this? I find the whole thing here a little bit dull, actually, and it doesn't kind of engage my interest, particularly the bridge section and the sky explodes. I don't think that really works. It's not an even piece of work for me. I feel the whole album just falling away a little bit. We've had two excellent songs. This is not quite as good. So I'm going to rate this as a below average track and give it 3 out of 10. Now, if you've got the vinyl, you've switched over now to the opening track on the second side, which is called Goodbye Marlon Brando. This seems to be a bit of a takeoff, a bit of criticism of everything that's famous. It's being mocked here, politicians, film stars, tabloid newspapers, all sorts of subjects. It's a bit of a list song, reminding me slightly of Wrap Her Up, which has also got a list of different people in there. But I don't think it's as engaging as Wrap Her Up. It's a rocker, and it's about making changes in your life. The lyrics are quite complicated, quite wordy. There's an awful lot going on here. I'm not sure why Marlon Brando is chosen as the heading for this, as the title. Maybe you know. It overstays its welcome, this song, and it's rather noisy, and it doesn't really capture the listener for me. So I'm going to rate this as a below average song as well and give it 3 out of 10. Now, in track number 7, The Camera Never Lies, and this is not the Bucks Fizz track, by the way. What happens here? A man exposes his two-timing wife. He says, I'm watching all of your secrets. The camera never lies. There's sort of a made in England feel to this one. It's a good pop song, this one. You can imagine at the time somebody like Alison Moyet singing it. And it's got that sort of Healing Hands feel to it as well, which is another good song from Elton. Some really funky piano playing in this. It's got a very good rhythmic verse, and the refrain also delivers. So I like this song a lot. I'm going to rate it as very good, 7 out of 10. Track number 8 is a real oddity. It's called Heavy Traffic. This actually came from the Leather Jacket sessions rather than the sessions for this album. Bernie's created a set of memorable characters here. in a kind of criticism of the vices of modern America, its aimlessness, drug addicts, senseless murders, all these sort of things. But he's criticising that through particular characters he's created. It's a very good lyric indeed. The pimp from the Jack of Diamonds just got another Jane Doe. You know, brilliant writing that. You could almost make this into a story or a novel, couldn't you? Like a Damon Runyon novel or something. So it's a very enjoyable track, and Elton's given it a very unusual setting. It's not really like anything else he's done, except that song Birds from one of his later albums comes to mind, where Elton is closely mic'd, as he is in this one. There's a lovely rhythm. The backing vocals are excellent on this. They work really well. There's a great rhythm, a driving rhythm to them. And we've got a jazzy piano solo in there as well. Definitely worth checking this track out. It's a very unusual one for Elton. I'd like to hear somebody doing a cover version of this. Maybe a sort of a country singer could do it. That would work really well. There's a chap who sings on the Elton John Facebook group, and each week he puts up a cover, and I'd like to hear him having a go at this, because he's very good indeed, actually, and it would make a good cover. Anyway, I'm going to rate this as a very good track, give it 7 out of 10. Track number 9 is Poor Cow. Elizabeth Rosenthal says this is about a working class woman's dilemma. She marries, then gets abused. Now, Bernie's tackling some big topics on this album as well, and I really appreciate the way he's engaging with these. The opening reminds me a little bit of that song Madness from The Single Man. It's kind of in that minor key, that kind of building excitement on there. There's an affecting lyric here. You'll see your whole life coming at you in the back of his hand. That's powerful stuff from Bernie. Very well done. It's one of his best, I think, except that line, which I don't quite get. It's a monkey see town. What does he mean by that? Does he mean there's a kind of some of the people in that town are perhaps not that intelligent, not that sensible? I don't know. Maybe you've got an idea on that. The vocal is really interesting to listen to, because Elton is shifting an octave sometimes in the middle of the verse, just to give extra emphasis to the tracks. This is a good treatment by Elton. Not a bad song at all. It ends quite abruptly, as several do on this CD. I don't mind that. Definitely worth a listen, and I'm going to give it good 6 out of 10. Now, the final track is Since God Invented Girls. Again, Elizabeth Rosenthal describes it as having mawkishly macho lyrics. I would compare this slightly with some of Elton's other songs, I Fall Apart, One More Arrow. He's using a very high register on some occasions during this song. It's got a Beach Boys reference in it, of course. Now I know what Brian Wilson meant. I've always found that a rather clunky lyric, and I don't think this is maybe the best set of lyrics we've got. It's got an awkward melody. It's rather disjointed and rather uninteresting. I'm not sure about the backing vocals. I think they could be more subtle. It rather outstays its welcome, I feel, this one. So it's a bit of a disappointing end to the album, and I'm going to give this one a disappointing 2 out of 10. So 29 marks for the first 5 tracks, 25 marks for the second 5 tracks, giving us a total of 54 over 10 tracks. That's an average of 5.40. It's an album of 2 halves in a way. 5 of the songs I would rate as good or very good or even brilliant. The other 5 are sort of less interesting and don't quite get up to the quality of others. But it's an album definitely worth listening to. Let's see how that fits in with all my other reviews. So 397 songs reviewed so far. And as you can see there, we have a new entry coming in with Mona Lisa's Manhattan's Part 2, currently coming in there at number 22. Of course, the 9s and 10s, these aren't ordered yet. They've just come in as I've been doing them. Moving further down, we've got a new one ranked 8 out of 10. A lot of 8s, as you can see. I don't want to go on with you like that. Now, Red Strikes Back does contribute a couple of songs to the bottom of the league table as well. We've got Since God Invented Girls there, getting just 2 marks out of 10. And then I've got a 3 there coming in with Japanese Hands and Goodbye Marlon Brando, actually. So let's have a look at the albums ranked now. And I have actually done 30, so there is a 31st still to do, which is Empty Sky. As we can see there, Red Strikes Back getting 5.4, coming in at number 19. It's sharing that spot with Breaking Hearts and Captain Fantastic. And I know that's controversial. It's just not one of my favourite albums. So, you know, it's not a bad album, but not sort of getting very high on my chart. So let's get the discussion going on this album now. What's your favourite track? Do you disagree with any of my rankings? I'll do a follow-up video including some of your comments. Thanks for watching. One more album to go, Empty Sky. See you soon. Don't forget, we're still standing.